Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1 for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. We start off with a look at the stories that made headlines tonight. Chief incumbent of the Gangaramaya Temple, Venerable Galabuddha Gnanistara Thera passes away. President unveils development plans for the north. Leaders must tighten their belts first, opposition leader says. Anura Kumara reveals plans to develop education sector at National Teachers Convention.
අපි අධ්‍යාපනයේ නියැලෙන සියලුම ශාස්ත්‍ර නියෝජනය කරන පරිදි ගුරු සභාවක් නිර්මාණය කරනවා. ඒක ඇතුළේ තමයි අධ්‍යාපන ප්‍රමිතියේ මාවත තීරණය කරන ලබන.
Did Sajid really meet Namal? The duo responded to Ashu's claims. More candidates deposit bonds for the presidential election. Relaxation of import restrictions on motor vehicles will support revenue mobilization in 2025, IMF says. Supreme Court issues interim order suspending the Cabinet of Ministers' decision to hand over e-visa services to foreign companies.
On to those stories in detail. The Chief Sangaya of the Columbo New Corridor and Chief Incumbent of the Gangaramaya Temple, Venerable Galabuddha Gnanistara, passed away today.
The late Thera carried out an important mission for the perpetuation of Buddhism, serving devotees who came from all corners of the globe.
He was suffering from illness for some time and passed away today while receiving treatment at a private hospital.
Born on the 14th of December 1943 in the village of Galabuddha Mathara, Venerable Galabuddha Gnanistara was ordained at the age of 8 and became known among everyone as the Podihamuduruo of Gangaramaya. Since then, Venerable Gnanistara has played a crucial role in the advancement of the Buddhist order as well as in the social and economic progress of this country. He was also a much respected religious figure among Buddhist devotees. He was appointed the chief incumbent of the Gangaramaya Temple at the age of 16 with the passing away of Venerable Deundara Ratanajoti Thera, who previously held the position. Since then, he devoted his life to make the Gangaramaya Temple a center of Buddhism in Colombo. Due to his progressive attitude, the Gangaramaya Temple became an important factor in any social, political, and economic change in this country. He greatly impacted rural temples and monks and became a powerful social reformer by working with thousands of people. As a result of his hard work and dedication, the Gangaramaya Temple's Nawam Perehara became famous as the most colourful cultural festival in Colombo. The Sri Jinaratna College of Education, founded by him, became a place of learning for children who had stopped their schooling midway and were looking for a path for the future. He advocated for environmental causes by encouraging people to plant jackfruit, rubber, cinnamon, and coconut. He never became a pawn of politicians and was a son of Buddha who courageously voiced his opinion.
It was the wish of Lord Buddha that we must work for the betterment of the people. All our work should be for the people. Therefore, the people of the country should think about the country without any selfishness, and we should work together while keeping our history in mind.
කල්පනා කරලා කවුරුත් සමගිව එකමුතුව වාද වේද නැතුව ඊටාම කල්පනාකාරීව අපේ පරණ ඉතිහාසයත් සිහිපත් කරගෙන අපි වැඩ කරන්න ඕන.
People have been gathering at the Gangaramaya Temple since the news of the Venerable Thera's demise.
උන්වහන්සේගේ
The final rites of the chief Sangaya will be held at 4 p.m. on Monday at the grounds opposite the Gangaramaya temple with state honours. His mortal remains will be brought to the temple tomorrow where the public can show their last respects.
හිට උදෑසන සිට ආදාහන කටයුතු පැවැත්වෙනකන් ඉඩකඩ තියෙනවා.
Our Pudi Hamuduro, who always sits on a small chair at the door of the Gangaramaya temple with a smile on his face, will never be seen again. But his immense mission to build a nation, a land of merit, is forever remembered in the hearts of all our people. To our Pudi Hamuduro of Gangaramaya, who awakened a country, may you attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana.
Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka decides.
Sri Lanka decides.
Bonds were deposited for the upcoming presidential election today as well. Accordingly, the number of candidates who have deposited bonds for the 2024 presidential election is 14.
A group represented by attorney Sanjeeva Gunaratna has deposited bonds on behalf of Venerable Aknimana Dayaratna Thera.
Venerable Dayaratna has consistently advocated for the people of our country and championed their causes. We pledge our support for him as an independent candidate in the upcoming presidential election.
Leader of the Janasatha Peramuna, Venerable Battaramulle Seelaratana Thera, also made bond deposits for the presidential election today.
Let the people decide in the approaching election if Janasatha Peramuna's tractor symbol will triumph the delivery benefits to the people. Would you choose a tractor to clean up the mess left by thieves? Remember, our country has one law, one nation, and no petty thief can evade justice. I will not hesitate to enforce the law against anyone in any case.
Leader of the New Sinhala Heritage, Sarat Manamendra, has also deposited bonds for the upcoming presidential election.
This time we urge the people not to remain in darkness once night falls. Let us entrust this country to a capable leader. Our nation deserves a leader with a clear national policy who can promote our goals internationally. The current rulers who have turned into thieves will only further sink our country, not raise it up.
Meanwhile, a group of senior police officials visited the Election Commission today to discuss presidential election security. The group included Lalit Patinayake, Senior Deputy Inspector General in charge of Administrative Affairs, the 9 Senior Deputy Inspector Generals in charge of the provinces, the Senior Deputy Inspector General in charge of elections, the Special Task Force Commander, and an officer from the State Intelligence Department.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe presided over the commencement of the River for JAFFNA project, which is designed to provide a comprehensive solution to the water scarcity issues in the northern region of Sri Lanka.
The Thalayadi seawater desalination plant, part of the JAFFNA Kilinochchi water supply project, is managed by the National Water Supply and Drainage Board under the Ministry of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development with financial support from the Asian Development Bank and the Government of Sri Lanka. The total cost of the project is $266 million. The Government of Sri Lanka launched the JAFFNA Kilinochchi District Water Supply and Sanitation Project in 2011 to address the drinking water needs of JAFFNA and Kilinochchi, with support from the Asian Development Bank and the French Development Bank. The water purification plant that was opened today is a part of that project. The main objective of the project is to provide safe drinking water to 300,000 people and improve sanitation facilities for 80,000 people in the JAFFNA and Kilinochchi districts of Sri Lanka's northern province.
යාපනයේට දැන් කංකසන්තුරේ වරාය අලුත්
We are planning to renovate the port of Kankasanture in collaboration with India. An investment zone will be established at the site of the former cement factory. Additionally, the development of Palali will enhance tourism opportunities. This area has significant potential for producing wind and solar energy, which can generate substantial income. As a result, JAFFNA is expected to become a developed area within the next 5 to 10 years. It has been around 20 years since the end of the war, and it is now time for us to unite in our efforts for development. We have now signed agreements with our official creditors committee and the China Exim Bank, and we have also reached an agreement with the bondholders. With these agreements in place, we are receiving support from those nations. Japan has committed to resuming projects that were previously halted in our country, and development efforts in other countries are also progressing. Furthermore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and I have taken the necessary steps to implement the agreements we reached, and the signing of these agreements is currently underway. We are collaborating with Amul to enhance liquid milk production. We should focus on increasing the country's income and continue this program. This will help improve the economy and transform JAFFNA into a major economic hub.
ඉතින් රටේ ආපහු මුදල් ඇතුළට ලබා ගන්නවා. පරිහරණය කරනවා. දැන් අඛණ්ඩව අපි මේව ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට රටේ ආර්ථිකයක් දියුණු වෙනවා. යාපනයේත් ප්‍රධාන ආර්ථික මධ්‍යස්ථානයක් බවට පත් වෙනවා.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa emphasized today that sacrifices in recovering from bankruptcy should not be borne solely by the public, but also by the country's leaders. He made this assertion while addressing the Bhikkhu Advisory Council of the Samagijana Balavegya.
The Bhikkhu Advisory Council of the Samagijana Balavegya convened in Kurunegala for its 6th district meeting. They also engaged in charitable activities for the Mahasangha.
දැන් මේකේ විහිළුව වෙලා තියෙන්නේ පෞද්ගලික දෙස් විදෙස් දානපතියන්ගෙන් ආධාර ලබාගෙන කරන වැඩසටහන් තහනම්. රාජ්‍ය අරමුදල් වලින් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන සංවර්ධන වැඩසටහන්.
The fact that the prohibited programs are funded by private, local and foreign donors is a joke. There are no restrictions. However, on initiating development programs financed by state funds, recently we engaged with an IMF team, reaching a consensus that significant changes and reforms are imperative for our country. In the spirit of sacrifice, it is essential that everyone contributes. The head of state should set the example by making sacrifices first. Personally, I have tightened my financial belt and increased my contributions. Now it is time for everyone to fulfill their roles. During the restructuring of domestic debt, wealthy primary bond dealers were protected while exploiting the providers of this country. The EPF and ETF were affected, which was unjust. The affluent in our nation must shoulder a considerable share of the sacrifice. We conveyed this message respectfully to the International Monetary Fund. When the IMF proposed extending the debt payment timeline to 2032, our government suggested it could start as early as 2028. We assured the IMF of our willingness to cooperate. Some may argue otherwise, but dismissing valid concerns as mere folly will only negatively impact our nation. We must devise strategic provisions through thoughtful planning.
කියලා තවත් අපේ රට තවත් පතුලකට වටන්න හොඳ නැහැ. අපි දැනගන්නට ඕන ක්‍රමෝපායික ඥානාන්විතව strategic thinking හරහා උපක්‍රමශීලී ප්‍රතිපත්ති සම්පාදනය තුල අපි කොහොමද ගොඩ එන්නේ?
The National Teachers Convention of the National People's Power was held in Columbo this morning.
The National Teachers Convention, led by the leader of the National People's Power, Anrukumara Disanayaka, was held at the PD Sirisena grounds in Maligavatta. General Secretary of Ceylon Teachers Service Union, Mahinda Jayasinghe, and leaders of teacher principal unions attended this event.
If we are to move forward from this collapsed state, education will definitely become the main steering wheel to move our country forward. There is no other way. Therefore, education is the government's responsibility. We are against that opinion. The National People's Power government will further strengthen education. Our approach is to strengthen free education. But if someone thinks that his pocket is big enough and he should get education by paying money, there is an education that can be obtained like that. A private education regulated by the government. We have no problem if you go abroad and acquire that knowledge quickly, but the government should take the primary responsibility of education. We have come to a policy of allocating a percentage of GNP that will exceed 4% within a few years by systematically increasing the budget allocated for education. Therefore, we expect to present our first budget document that allocates the most amount. When I was in the United States, I went to the postgraduate institutes of several universities. There are so many Sri Lankan students in those universities. The top ranks from University of Moratuwa and University of Peradeniya are working there. They learn the principle here and do their research there. Therefore, if we want to take a new step in education, we will establish full-time postgraduate institutions in Sri Lanka from the primary level where new research is done, new knowledge is created and new innovations are discovered. We need to take our country to that level. We will create a teachers' council to represent all fields involved in education. Educational standards will be decided within that council. We will not allow schools or children to be used in any political agenda. We guarantee you that we will completely remove the culture where appointments, transfers and promotions are done according to politics, and we will create a system that will give you the opportunity you need based on the ability and talent. We have facts, we have suggestions and we have the need. The only problem is that we need to get the power transferred from the hands of these destructive leaders to the national people's power.
The turning point.
Both Namal Rajapaksa and Sajid Premadasa today denied the allegations made yesterday by former UNP MP Ashu Marasinghe, who claimed that the duo are engaging in secretive discussions.
At a media briefing held yesterday at the Sirikota United National Party headquarters, senior advisor to the President on Parliamentary Affairs, former MP Professor Ashu Marasinghe, disclosed details about a meeting between Sajid and Namal.
Some MPs alleged these young leaders met frequently. They have met at two main locations in Columbo. Both Sajid and Namal took to social media to refute these claims. What were the details of the discussion? What happened?
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa responded to a newspaper article on this matter through a release statement on X. In his message, Sajid Premadasa categorically denied having met with Namal Rajapaksa. He also insisted that the article be retracted and demanded an apology from its authors. Journalists also questioned SLPP national organizer Namal Rajapaksa about these allegations.
When my father was in politics, they accused him of making deals with Ranil Wickremesinghe. Now they are suggesting that I am in discussions with Sajid Premadasa. Our engagements are solely with our party membership. I believe this is a grave injustice to Sajid Premadasa. A faction engaged in narrow politics is spreading false rumors to divert attention during the election period. There are significant similarities between the policies endorsed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Sajid Premadasa. Their ideologies are more aligned than ours. They were once united because of their shared vision.
The turning point.
A gathering of local government representatives convened in the Anuradhapura district today under the leadership of State Minister for Finance, Shehan Singha. Among those present were MPs S.M. Chandrasena and S.C. Muthukumarana.
A group of us met with President Mahinda Rajapaksa in Parliament. We cautioned against the decision not to support President Ranil Wickremesinghe in the upcoming election. The people are leaning towards supporting him. Mahinda Rajapaksa acknowledged the diverse opinions within the party. During a meeting with about 35 MPs, he attentively listened to our concerns. He emphasized the importance of respecting both viewpoints in a democratic manner. Instead of endorsing a party-nominated candidate, he suggested enabling public support for their preferred presidential candidate. He demonstrated demonstrated a deep understanding of our party's internal ideology during our direct discussion. Regrettably, a minority within our party prevented President Rajapaksa from making the right decision. It's concerning that my colleague Namal Rajapaksa recently remarked it would be fair for our houses to burn. What right does he have to make such a statement? The party aims to return to the opposition in the upcoming elections and restore our members' fortunes as 2022.
මේ රට සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම තමන්ගේ සමාජිකයා අර 2022 අත්වෙච්ච ඉරණමට තව මාසයකමාරක් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න. අලහප්පරුම අපේ පක්ෂේම පුද්ගලයෙක් එහා පැත්තෙන් ඡන්දය ඉල්ලනකොට අපිට අපේ පක්ෂේ නායකයෝ කිව්වා.
When a member of our party sought votes from another faction, our party leader affirmed Ranil Wickremesinghe as the right choice. Based on this guidance, 134 of us supported and appointed him. President Ranil Wickremesinghe's initial presidential meeting was held in the upper hall of this venue, where he spoke about safeguarding the country from current terrorist threats. Similar to his past actions, I consistently attended meetings and conveyed this message to the people and our appointed president. The credit for these actions rightfully belongs to the SLPP. Our president rectified past wrongs and propelled the country forward. Credit was attributed to the SLPP. Therefore, we resolved to support the president this time. I met with Basil Rajapaksa last week to strategize for the upcoming general election. I told him that we must support Ranil Wickremesinghe this time and put forward our own candidate next time.
මේ සැරේට රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට උදව් කරමු. අපි ඊළඟ මැතිවරණයේදී පොහොට්ටුවෙන් අපි වෙනම ඉල්ලමු. පොහොට්ටුවෙන් මහා මැතිවරණය ඉල්ලමු කියලා.
The turning point.
Sri Lanka Podujana Perammuna's Politburo member Milinda Rajapaksa said that the party's candidate will soon be revealed to the public.
As
the Politburo of our party, we have decided to nominate a candidate under our party symbol. We have informed the Elections Commission that we will submit our nominations on the 15th August. Yesterday, the SLPP secretary said that we will put forward our candidate by the 7th or 8th August.
අපි පක්ෂයේ අපේ අපේක්ෂකයා කවුද කියලා මහ ජනතාවට එළි දක්වනවා.
නැවත වතාවක් ජනාධිපතිතුමාට සහාය දෙන්න ඉල්ලීමක් වුණොත් දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලයේ තීන්දුවක් ගත්තොත් එවැනි හැකියාවක් තියෙනවා වගේ කතාවක් තමයි අපිට තේරුනේ. එහෙම තත්ත්වයක් තියෙනවද?
පක්ෂයේ දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලය
The decisions of the Politburo, the All Ceylon Working Committee and the Executive Council all converge into one party. Any decision we make requires consultation with our party members and officials. After extensive discussions and debates, we arrived at this decision. If circumstances were to change, we would need to convene the Politburo again. I don't foresee any changes to the Politburo's decision. Therefore, I believe the decision made will be upheld in the future.
නැවත සාකච්ඡාවට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා කොහෙවත් ඒ නිසා එදාගත්ත තීන්දුව ඉදිරියට අරගෙන යන බවක් තමයි පේන්න තියෙන්නේ.
The Sarvajana Balaya is preparing to announce its presidential candidate next Sunday.
They are trying to put forward the same type of character with minor changes. We do not see any difference between these forces. We hope to announce the presidential candidate of the Sarvajana Balaya on Sunday as an alternative candidate to this journey of presidential election in order to obtain a mandate for a program that will develop for the future of this country.
The Institute of Democratic Reforms and Electoral Studies convened a media briefing today and expressed views on the violation of election laws.
Misuse of state property is gradually increasing now. We see that several people and several institutions are continuously obstructing this. We have even complained to the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka about this to take necessary action. As of yesterday, the Human Rights Commission issued two very valuable guidelines. One, how should the police officers act during the election? Secondly, how should the provincial and state officials act during the election season? We see that the National Police Commission and other institutions are not providing such efficient support to the Election Commission. At a time like this, the Human Rights Commission has come forward. Please inform the relevant monitoring organizations and the Election Commission about the money spent by the candidates, mainly because the Election Commission has completed all the related procedures yesterday.
මැතිවරණ කොමිෂන් සභාව මීට අදාළ කාර්ය පරිපාටින් සියල්ල සකස් කොට අවසానයි.
The Parliament is scheduled to reconvene next Tuesday.
The party leaders who met today under the chairmanship of the Speaker discussed the parliamentary activities of the coming week.
The participation was very low today. There will be a one-day debate about the Mathura salinity barrier. There is also a debate regarding the medical issues. Rodney Dimel's condolence has also been slated to be held next week.
Meanwhile, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chang met with Field Marshal Sarat Fonseka for discussions.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chang called on former Sri Lanka Army Commander Field Marshal Sarat Fonseka this morning. Posting on X, Ambassador Chang said the duo, quote, discussed Sri Lanka's political and economic environment ahead of presidential elections, end quote. Responding to the ambassador's post, Field Marshal Sarat Fonseka thanked her for sharing insights and ideas on how corruption can be crushed in Sri Lanka. He said, quote, our country Sri Lanka can only progress if we crush corruption, and I look forward to working with the United States and all the relevant stakeholders towards achieving this objective, end quote.
Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka decides.
Sri Lanka decides. The power of the people.
The International Monetary Fund has warned that policy slippages could jeopardize Sri Lanka's path to recovery. We've got the details on tonight's edition of Newsfirst Finance Report.
The Newsfirst Finance Report.
The IMF staff concluding its visit to Sri Lanka today said the economic reforms implemented by the Sri Lankan authorities have continued to support the recovery with 3 consecutive quarters of real GDP growth, low inflation, increased revenue collection and a build-up of external reserves. It said that decisive progress on the reform agenda is necessary to ensure a broad-based and stable economic recovery benefiting all of Sri Lanka's people. An International Monetary Fund mission team led by Senior Mission Chief Peter Brewer visited Sri Lanka from the 25th July to the 2nd August 2024. Brewer said that with Sri Lanka's knife-edged recovery at a critical juncture, sustaining the reform momentum and ensuring timely implementation of all program commitments are critical to cement the hard-won economic progress to date and put the economy on a firm footing. He pointed out maintaining macroeconomic stability and restoring debt sustainability require further efforts to raise fiscal revenues. He further noted that the 2025 budget needs to be underpinned by appropriate revenue measures and continued spending restraint so as to reach the medium-term primary balance objective of 2.3% of GDP, a key requirement for restoring Sri Lanka's debt sustainability. He stressed the planned relaxation of import restrictions on motor vehicles will support revenue mobilization in 2025. Tax administration reforms could further improve compliance, including by establishing a properly functioning VAT refund system for exporters by April 2025. Any proposed measure eroding the fiscal position needs to be offset by compensating measures of high quality. The senior mission chief also highlighted that avoiding new tax exemptions will not only reduce corruption risks and fiscal revenue leakages, but also ensure a more predictable and transparent tax system. He said that continuing to maintain energy prices at cost recovery levels is critical to avoid potential fiscal costs. The senior mission chief warned protecting the poor and vulnerable through improved targeting and better coverage of cash transfers remains critical. Policy slippages could jeopardize the recovery. The IMF also encouraged the relaxation of import restrictions on motor vehicles to boost revenue mobilization and emphasized the importance of tax administration reforms to improve compliance. He said the planned relaxation of import restrictions on motor vehicles will support revenue mobilization in 2025. Tax administration reforms could further improve compliance, including by establishing a properly functioning VAT refund system for exporters by April 2025. Any proposed measure eroding the fiscal position needs to be offset by compensating measures of high quality. Regarding debt, he added that the authorities have made commendable progress with putting debt on a path towards sustainability. The execution of the domestic debt restructuring and finalizing the agreements with the official creditor committee and China Exim Bank are major milestones. The IMF encouraged a swift resolution of the remaining steps to achieve debt sustainability and regain investor confidence. We will continue to support Sri Lanka's ongoing debt restructuring efforts. He said said that progress in meeting key commitments under the IMF-supported program will be formally assessed in the context of the third review of the EFF. The timing of the third review will be discussed with the government after the recently announced presidential elections. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe had met with IMF Mission Chief Peter Brewer and his team to discuss the progress of the ongoing economic program. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe said that the discussion focused on identifying areas that need additional attention to ensure the successful completion of the third review, which is crucial for the timely disbursement of the fourth tranche. He said that the IMF team commended President Wickremesinghe for his commitment and leadership, which have played a pivotal role in achieving a remarkable economic turnaround in a short time. Additionally, the meeting covered the progress of debt restructuring efforts. He said President Wickremesinghe assured that he is dedicated to steering the country towards a prosperous future.
The Newsfirst Finance Report.
Still in local news, the Supreme Court today issued an interim order suspending the Cabinet of Ministers' decision to hand over e-visa services to foreign companies. Accordingly, the court ordered that visa services be reverted back to the former system that was followed prior to the implementation of the new system.
The interim order suspending the Cabinet of Ministers' decision to hand over e-visa services to foreign companies will be effective until the final verdict on the case. Member of Parliament Partly Champika Ranawaka Rauf Hakim and M.S. Sumandiran filed petitions emphasizing the risk posed by the e-visa system. They argue that this system could potentially expose sensitive national security information threatening national security. The petitioner requested an order to cancel the relevant system. The petitioners stressed that the tourism industry is facing a precarious situation following the Cabinet's decision to change the system. The petitioners emphasized on the public losing faith in the government due to the rising prices of visas. The petitioners stated that the fundamental rights of the general public have been violated and requested that the interim order be issued suspending the government's decision to hand over e-visa services to foreign companies. The petition names 32 parties, including the Immigration and Immigration Controller, the Attorney General and the Ministry of Public Security as respondents. The petition is scheduled to be taken up on the 4th of October.
We welcome the court's decision as a triumph for justice. The legal proceedings concerning Mobitel, a subsidiary of Sri Lanka Telecom, prior to April 17th, will now proceed as scheduled for October 7th and 8th. This is a significant setback for the government. When we voiced these concerns in Parliament, we were met with challenges from the ministers and the ruling coalition. Today, the Supreme Court's ruling ensures justice is upheld in our nation. It also underscores the breach of public trust by the Cabinet of Ministers who supported such actions. The Supreme Court has decided to take up 5 fundamental rights applications that challenge the Cabinet of Ministers' approval for India's Adani company to construct a wind power plant in Mannar. These petitions will be taken up on October 14th in order to verify the facts.
The order was issued by the Supreme Court bench comprising Justices S. Durai Raja, AHMD Nawaz, Shiran Gunaratne and Achala Vengapulli. The petitioners, including the Centre for Environmental Justice, argue that Sri Lanka, situated along the Central Asian Flyway, plays a crucial role as a global hub for migratory birds. The petitioners note that approximately 1 million birds visit this region during the winter months. The petitioners highlight that any obstruction to this area could significantly impact the migratory pattern of these birds. Further, the petitioners contend that Mannar was chosen for the wind farm project primarily due to political and external factors without sufficient scientific justification despite its environmentally sensitive status.
The Supreme Court today ordered to hear petitions alleging that the government incurred a loss of 15.9 billion rupees due to tax cuts on imported sugar during the Gotabaya Rajapaksa administration. The fundamental rights petition was filed by former MP Sunil Handunetti.
The petition was taken up before a bench comprising of Supreme Court justices including Yasantha Kodagoda, Janak De Silva and Arjuno Besekara. President's counsels Faiz Mustafa and Naveen Marapana, representing the respondent, requested additional time to prepare their objections. After careful consideration of the arguments presented by both parties, the bench scheduled the hearing of the petition for the 12th of September.
An Indian Navy submarine has reached the port of Columbo.
The Indian naval submarine Shalki arrived at the port of Colombo today on a formal visit. The visiting submarine was welcomed by the Sri Lankan Navy in precision with naval traditions. INS Shalki is a 64.4-meter long submarine with a crew of 40 and it is commanded by Commander Rahul Patnaik. During the submarine stay in Colombo, personnel of the Sri Lankan Navy are expected to visit the submarine to take part in an awareness program on its operational features. Concluding the official visit, INS Shalki will depart the island on the 4th of August.
The US, Sri Lanka and the Maldives militaries will unite the Atlas Angel military exercise next week.
The Montana National Guard and US Pacific Air Forces, in collaboration with the Sri Lanka Air Force and members of the Maldives National Defence Force, are conducting Atlas Angel, a joint military exercise aimed at enhancing preparation and response to natural and man-made disasters. From the 5th of August to the 9th, more than 70 US personnel and 2 C-130 Hercules aircraft will participate alongside their Sri Lankan and Maldivian counterparts, underscoring the importance of international cooperation in disaster response and US commitment to fostering a resilient and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. Atlas Angel will feature 6 exercises, including urban and medical search and rescue as well as airfield repair, culminating in a crisis management exercise on the 9th of August.
The Sri Lankan government strongly advises its citizens to refrain from seeking employment in Myanmar through illegal foreign employment agents or persons and institutions involved in human trafficking.
Alarming reports have revealed that a group of Sri Lankans who have illegally left for work in Myanmar are being forcibly detained for illegal activities in a camp in the cybercrime area operated by the terrorist groups in Myanmar. Over the past few months, Newsfirst exposed the torture that Sri Lankans held against their will at cyber camps had to endure. Despite prior warnings by the government, it has been revealed that 89 Sri Lankans have illegally travelled to Myanmar for employment. Through the dedicated efforts of officials with assistance of government of Myanmar, 40 Sri Lankans have been released from captivity. However, reports also reveal that 54 Sri Lankans still remain trapped in the cybercrime area. The Sri Lankan government, in cooperation with the Myanmar government, is making every effort to secure the release of those still held captive. However, despite prior warnings and ongoing efforts, it is learned that certain individuals continue to travel to Myanmar for employment through illegal means. Considering the status quo, the Secretary of Defence requested the public to refrain from seeking employment in Myanmar. Those having any information regarding individuals involved in human trafficking activities are urged to contact the Ministry of Defence or the Criminal Investigation Department to ensure the safety and security of all Sri Lankan citizens.
Step away from the conventional art of storytelling. Get ready for the Newsfirst Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulkif Farzan.
All subject to a decisive judgment, with 4 beloved stars at the helm. The thrilling surprises await this weekend.
Fantastic! Lanka's Got Talent.
Weekends at 8:30 p.m. on Sirasa TV.
10 teams, 23 matches. ICC Women's T20 World Cup Bangladesh 2024 coming soon.
Opposition MP SM Maras says that an SJB-led government will allow all Sri Lankan citizens to enjoy freedom, in contrast to the constraints of the current regime.
අපි පැහැදිලිව කියන්න ඕන ජාත්‍යන්තර පොර කියලා කිව්වට රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාට ජාත්‍යන්තරයෙන්
Although President Ranil Wickremesinghe boasts that he is internationally recognized, he hasn't managed to bring a single rupee to this country from abroad. Export revenue has not increased. During his tenure, this country is being betrayed. There are many restaurants in the south and east that do not allow any locals. This is our country. How can we have such restaurants where our own people are not allowed? Ranil Wickremesinghe has let people operate many such restaurants in Mirissa, Arugambe and Trincomalee, where only tourists are allowed to go. How can that happen? Under a government of Samagi Jana Balawegya, we will let all people of this country enjoy their freedom anywhere. We will not let these tourist-only restaurants continue their operations. That doesn't mean we are closing them down, but we will create an environment where everyone can freely go to these restaurants.
ඒකෙන් කියන්නේ අපි ඒක වස්සනවා කියලා. හැබැයි ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ට යන්න පුළුවන් වාතාවරණය අපි ඒකේ හදලා දෙනවා කියන එක පැහැදිලිව කියන්න ඕනේ.
The remains of the fisherman who died when an Indian fishing vessel had capsized close to the Delf Island in the northern region of the Sea of Sri Lanka were handed over to the officials of the Indian High Commission in JAFFNA. Meanwhile, Rameshwaram fishermen have taken measures to engage in a strike demanding justice for the Indian fisherman and the return of the rescued fishermen.
A collision was reported early last morning between a Sri Lankan naval vessel and an Indian fishing vessel 5 nautical miles north of Kachathivu Island. Out of the 4 Indian fishermen who were on board the vessel, one unfortunately lost his life and another is missing. The body of the deceased fisherman was kept at the JAFFNA Teaching Hospital for post-mortem, and the post-mortem was completed today. The results of the post-mortem revealed that the fisherman had died as a result of drowning. Consulate General of India in JAFFNA, Sri Sai Murali, held discussions with Sri Lankan officials on the 2 Indian fishermen. Following this, the 2 Indian fishermen and the remains of the deceased fishermen have been handed over to the Consulate General of India in JAFFNA. Navy spokesperson Captain Gayan Wickremasurya says the search for the missing fishermen continued today. He adds an Indian Coast Guard vessel also assisted in the search operation. A decision has been reached to launch an indefinite strike until a solution to this issue has been provided.
The Indian government has requested that the fishermen who died, the 2 fishermen who were saved and the 1 missing be brought to India. We also thank the Sri Lankan government for not taking any legal action against the fishermen that were saved. If these fishermen are not brought to India within 3 days, a decision on the future course of action will be taken. A decision was also made to launch an indefinite strike in India.
Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin, in a letter has requested the Minister of External Affairs of India, S. Jaishankar, that the remains of the Indian fishermen be brought to India. Meanwhile, Indian media reported that the central government has informed the Madras High Court that the Indo-Sri Lanka Joint Committee will be convened soon in this regard. Views on this were expressed at a media briefing held in JAFFNA.
மனித நேயத்துடன் பார்க்கும் பொழுது அது ஒரு வேதனையான ஒரு துன்பவியல் சம்பவமே கருதப்படுது.
In the eyes of humanity, this is a tragic incident. Even though your fishing leaders say that it is inevitable for you to encroach on the Sea of Sri Lanka, you should keep in mind that there will be surveillance and navy in this country, and we request you to stop doing this in future. While encroaching and occupying the Sea of Sri Lanka, you can't stop the harm that is caused.
In some developing news, the leader of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, said that its conflict with Israel had entered a new phase after an Israeli strike in Lebanon's capital Beirut this week. In light of this current situation in the Middle East, Sri Lanka's Foreign Affairs Minister, President's Counsel Ali Sabri, has advised the public to avoid non-essential travel to Lebanon over the next few days.
Lebanese militant group Hezbollah Hassan Nasrallah's speech has been nervously awaited since the Israeli strike on Tuesday, which killed Fuad Shakur, one of his close confidants and a top-ranking Hezbollah commander. A top Hamas leader was killed in Iran hours later, fueling worries around the Middle East that Israel's hostilities with Iran and its allies could erupt into an all-out regional war. But although Nasrallah promised that Hezbollah would respond according to reports, he equivocated on the scope and nature of that retaliation. Officials and diplomats across Middle East had been looking into the speech for any indication of whether Hezbollah would alter course in its long-running conflict with Israel, either by escalating its military response or seeking to lower the pressure and avoid all-out war. Although he said the group and its allies were working on a true response, not a show response as some are trying to suggest, he added that Israel's reaction would determine whether the war escalates. The targeted Israeli strike in Beirut suburb on Tuesday that killed Shukur and killed 5 civilians and wounded scores more, according to the Lebanese authorities. In light of the current situation in the Middle East, Sri Lanka's Foreign Affairs Minister, President's Counsel Ali Sabri, has advised the public to avoid non-essential travel to Lebanon over the next few days. Minister Sabri emphasized the importance of prioritizing safety during this period of heightened tension. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has arranged to appoint 3 special committees as a preliminary measure to address the security and economic pressures that may affect Sri Lanka, considering the potential developments in the Middle East and globally, including the assassination of the Hamas political leader in Iran. The first ODI between Sri Lanka and India is currently underway at the R. Premadasa International Cricket Stadium in Columbo. Batting first, Sri Lanka posted 230 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in their allotted 20 overs. Chasing a target of 231 runs, India were 213 runs for the loss of 8 wickets at the end of 45 overs. Moving along. Day 45 of the third phase of the LOLC Divi Savia program, which is being carried out for the betterment of Sri Lanka's future generation, got underway today.
Today's program was centered around the Norelia district. Under the Divi Savia program, exercise books and stationery equipment required for a year are distributed free of charge to government schools with less than 150 students. Accordingly, school bags and stationery equipment were donated to students of Anik Tamil Vidyalaya, St. Margaret Tamil Vidyalaya, Tallos Tamil Vidyalaya, Jaivima Primary School, Dimbulkumbura Primary School and Bogamu Kanishta Vidyalaya. The LLC Divi Savia program continues to forge ahead for the future generation of Sri Lanka.
The heat of the presidential election campaign intensifies with each passing day. Currently, there is fierce competition among candidates who have deposited their security funds.
We leave you tonight with views expressed on the political platforms of both the ruling party and the opposition. Good night and take care.
Good night.
Before the ballot.
It is like a scene from Alibaba and 40 Thieves. In the morning, we witness a heading to Ranil Wickremesinghe's residence on Flower Road, while another 10 to 20 rush to Mahinda Rajapaksa's house in Vijayarama. They are just running around.
Before the ballot.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa said that if the party decides again, it could support Ranil Wickremesinghe and refrain from fielding SLPP's own candidate. This is a significant matter for fostering goodwill.
Before the ballot.
There are leaders who have made attempts and those who have delivered results. Therefore, the people of this country have no choice but to move forward with those who have shown results, and that person is Ranil Wickremesinghe. The remaining Tamil and Muslim groups will surely align with the side within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The people understand that their livelihoods depend on Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Before the ballot.
People are repeatedly deceived by the illusion of one lot in one place and another lot in another. Today, the people of this country have the right and the opportunity to choose a capable leader. We need a hard-working individual who can revitalize the economy and build a law-abiding future.
Before the ballot.